Hi everyone, welcome along. How are you doing today? Today I'm doing a review of the FS-T6, which is a radio controller for a model plane. This is available on eBay for about $60 US, including delivery. It looks like that. And the little receiver which goes inside the plane, that costs about $10 US with free shipping. Okay, so in general, what is this? Well, it's a controller, but because it's got a lot more features and it's 6-channel, it gives you a lot of sort of additional things that you can do over a normal controller. So for comparison, I've got here today my old controller, which is just a 5-channel controller. So you might be asking, well, why would I spend more than double the amount to get a 6-channel controller over a 5-channel controller? So this one here, you've got all your normal controls, 4 channels, and you've got the 5th channel up here, so you can switch that little switch there. So if you're flying a glider with flaps, you can just hit that and that will deploy the flaps. And this one also has got dual rate, so you can flick that and it will take the strength of your little arms there down a little bit, so it gives you a bit more accuracy if you're going very fast or something. Now there's nothing wrong with this controller at all. I've used this to fly my big glider, works really well, no problem. If you're happy with that, then that's great, that's all you'll ever need. However, I quickly got to the limitations of the glider and I looked up what you could do with one of these, and they add a whole lot of extra features. Firstly, in general, it's a lot bigger, the controls are a lot smoother, you have a lot more switches and channels to do stuff with, and most importantly, it's computer programmable, which enables you to do quite a lot of stuff, which I'm going to go into now. So to illustrate some of the programmable functions of the controller, I've got out here my super glider. This is the ASW28, and you can get this from Hobby King. So this is a 6-channel plane. It's got the normal ailerons, rudder, elevator, throttle, but it's also got these flaps here. So if you've got your 5-channel controller, you can hit the switch and put the flaps down, and it works beautifully. But I'm going to show you all the extra features you can get if you have the 6-channel controller like this one. Okay, so the first thing is expose. Now expose is sometimes you'll find a plane, it's just too jumpy in the air and it's hard to get it level because it sort of goes too far one way or too far the other. So you want to do fine kind of turning. So you can have dual rates, which tune down the amount of output you get from the amount of input. But the other thing that you can have is expose. And what expose does is it basically softens the middle area of the stick. So you've got full range by going all the way across, but if you just stay in the middle, the ailerons only move very slightly, so that enables you to have both the fine detail and do acrobatics and stuff like that. So on this controller, I've set the expose up to 80%, and to activate it, I hit this button on the top here, and that enters sport mode, and then the expose are engaged. So you see if I move it just up to about halfway, I don't get a lot, but then the last bit, that's where you get all the action. So that will make for a better flight. Okay, so the next thing that it's got is this interesting function called throttle hold. Now throttle hold is when you throw a switch and it dials up whatever throttle that you've programmed this in. So what I've actually done is I've programmed in 22%, which is the absolute minimum it takes to get the propeller turning. So this is what it looks like here if I throw the switch. So it only just turns. What actually happens if you do that is it acts as an air brake. So when I'm coming into land, if I want to slow the thing down, I just hit that switch and it spins it round and it acts as an air brake and slows the descent of the plane. It's actually very handy. I didn't realise that would be as handy as it is, but it's very cool. It helps you land if you're trying to land in a very small area. So the next thing you can do is you can mix channels. Now if you've never really thought about this, you probably don't see the advantage. Let's say you're learning to fly, what you can do is you can mix the channels so that when you push to the side, it mixes in a little bit of rudder and a little bit of elevator as well, so the plane goes round in a natural curve. If you're an experienced pilot, you probably don't want to do that because you enjoy the fine-tuning of getting the corner right. But if you're learning, it's a great feature. So actually, if I was getting my first controller, this would actually be a very good idea because you can get the computer to do some of the hard work for you. The next thing that you can do is a thing called differential ailerons. If you've got a big plane like this, a glider, you'll find that you get a thing called adverse yaw. Now adverse yaw is, I'll demonstrate on this little plane here. So here's the mini glider. Adverse yaw is when I bank one way, I'd expect it to turn and go around that way. But as you're banking, what happens is it tends to turn the other way, and then when you stop banking, it goes around the way you want it to go. What that is caused by is that the air under the wing is denser than the air on the top. So when the aileron goes down, it causes more drag than when the aileron goes up. The side that goes down is going to have more drag and it's going to turn the wrong way. So what you can do to overcome that is make the aileron go down only half as much as it goes up on the other side, and that way you overcome the adverse yaw. The next thing that I'll mention is 3 different conditions known as reflex, camber and crow. So the first one is camber. If you've got a 6-channel, what you can do is, especially this one because it's got dials up the top here, rather than individual switches, it actually has these dials. So you can key in, rather than having it all the way on or all the way off, you can dial up however much you want. So if I turn that slightly, I can get the flaps just to go down a wee bit. See that? And what that means is that I can create just a fraction more lift. So if I'm sloping, slope soaring, and it's just not quite staying in the spot, I can give it a bit of camber and it'll generate a little bit more lift and it should just stay where it needs to be. So reflex is when you put the ailerons up and that decreases lift. So the reason why you might use that is, let's say you were sloping again and it was just swooping up just a wee bit much and it wasn't quite penetrating the wind. You could reduce the lift and therefore get the nose down and get it to balance in the air. So using a combination of camber and or reflex, I can get it to stay in a certain position. The third option is called crow, and that's when the flaps go down and the ailerons go up and they act as an air brake. So what I do is if I turn both of those on, that up and that down, there's my air brake. The reason why you might want to use that is when you're coming into land, obviously, and you want to slow it down. Fix that. The real advantage would be, let's say you ran out of battery power in the air and you had to land in a specific area and you wanted to jam on the brake so you could bring it down. So that will enable you to do that. So all these functions that you can program into your controller, the controller saves it on there. So it remembers what all the setups are for each plane. So the setups that I've got on this plane are different to my other glider. So the controller can actually save 20 different planes in there, and when you switch it on, you just dial up whatever plane that you happen to be using that day. So the next part of this video is to go through the highs and the lows of this controller. So firstly, the highs. This is a really big controller. It's much bigger than my other one. And it's really nice. All the controls are really smooth. You've got a really good feel over the plane. They're a lot smoother than my other one. It's really easy to fly. The throttle controller doesn't have any of those little graduations that make it go duk, 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 duk. It's just really smooth. I've heard some people complain about that, but I actually really like it. I think that's a good feature. It's really nice and smooth. The other thing is the menus and everything are really simple to use. It doesn't actually come with a manual, but it's so intuitive that you'd never need one. So I'll let you see what it looks like here. So it's got a backlit screen, and all the functions that you need are on there, and you can go through. So I can select my planes and go through, and I can go through all the mixes here and set up all the features. It's really simple to use, and you just use the single scroll wheel here and you push it down for enter and you go back and forth. So that's really useful. Another really good feature is that it has dials. It's got 2 of these dials. So some of the ones that I looked at that were about the same price, they had quite a lot of switches like this. But the dials are very useful, and you would have seen earlier on that I was able to put a wee bit of camber or a wee bit of reflex in by just adjusting these dials. So I reckon that's a real plus feature. Another cool feature that this has is that you can use your power pack to supply energy to the controller. When you're setting up all your programming, it actually takes quite a bit of time to do that, and you go through quite a lot of battery power. So what you can do is just plug this in, and then it will run off your mains power, so you can spend a couple of hours if you want to going through all the different features. So I reckon that's a real good energy saver. And lastly, it's really good value for money. As I said, I got this for about 60 American dollars delivered. And for that price you can't get anything similar to this. So as I've been using it, I've found it really good and really good value for money. So now I'm going to go through the low points. I've had this for a wee while now and I've been playing around with it. I think I've figured out everything it's got to offer. I really can't find anything wrong with it. Maybe it'll develop a fault or something later on, but as I've been using it I've found it really good and I can't fault it. Probably the only thing that I didn't like is that it took 8 batteries in the back, which is quite a lot, makes it quite heavy, and it does seem to chew through the batteries pretty quickly. On the readout it tells you the number of volts that it's got in there, which is quite handy because you know when the batteries are getting low. And I guess it does actually have a recharge port here, so if I was using rechargeable batteries I could probably recharge them and I wouldn't have to worry about it. So I'm not sure if even that's a negative feature. So maybe one way to improve it would be to have a little port for a LiPo battery so you wouldn't have to use AAs. That would be quite handy and it would take away the problem of the weight and having to recharge the batteries. So overall then, the FlySky FS-T6 is a really good controller, really good value for money. It enables you to do a whole lot more features with your plane. Seems really good, really reliable, and it's a really good value for money, so I definitely recommend it. So that's all I wanted to say. I hope you've got something out of this review, and we'll see you again soon. Bye!